everybody. We're back. Welcome to season 2, episode 13 of More Than a Title. I'm your host, Jarrett Thomas, and we have an exciting show lined up for you guys with a special guest. But before I introduce this brother, I just want to take a second to dedicate this show to a few people, man. I just want to dedicate this to my family. You know, I love you guys. My boys, Jameer and Case, love you guys. Daddy loves you. Anything's possible. And lastly, to all you guys, the supporters, for continuing to help grow this platform. Like, you guys really keep me going. And honestly, I mean that. So, you know, before I get emotional and all that stuff, man, let's get into the chat because we got so many things we got to talk about today. So let's introduce our special guest today. This brother here is a businessman, entrepreneur, philanthropist, family man who has served in the entertainment, music, sports, and production industries for over 30 years. He's a minority owner of the Washington Nationals Baseball Club and currently serves as chairman of the Washington Nationals Founding Partners Group. For 16 years, this brother served as the executive vice president and general manager of Centric, which was formerly known as BTJ, which was a network targeting African Americans and multicultural adults that was owned by Viacom. And in 2018, this brother also launched the Washington, D.C. office of Liquid Soul, which is the agency behind the marketing promotion of blockbuster films like Black Panther and Wrinkle in Time. And also, this brother has multiple awards for his distinguished work, including Emmys, a Namic Vision Award, and also produced 2 Grammy-nominated solo albums for B.B. Winans, Live Up Close and Church. So I could keep going too, man, but I'm going to save it for the pod. But let's give a warm introduction to our special guest today, Mr. Paxton Baker. How are you, brother?
Thank you, brother. Healthy and positive on this end, and glad to be able to spend some time with you.
Likewise, man. It is an absolute honor, man, especially me being a young professional from the Bronx, man, and everything we've accomplished and overcame, man. But I want to a quick question. I'm going to keep it real right off the gate, man. How do you do speaking engagements like this and you hear your accomplishments back? Do you ever look back and be like, damn, I actually did this, man?
Well, I guess from my end, thankful. And that would be the first word would be thankful, and thankful, appreciative. I've been overwhelmingly blessed to work with just a great group of professionals for decades of time now. And like in the process with developing just a phenomenal degree of trust. The sister who's here in the office with me, Wanda Edmonds, Wanda and I have been working with each other pretty much like close to 30 years now. Another brother, Derek Lewis, and I, we've been with each other 32, 33 years. And my business partner, who's also my accountant, he and I are like 28, 29 years. And so like the core group of people who are around me have had a long, wonderful history of time with, and we've traveled together. We've faced tragedies together. We've been blessed with just amazing adventures. We pretty much have been around, without exaggeration, the whole of the world together, and have seen and developed friends. A lot of the artists that we work with, people like Jeffrey Osborne, Freddie Jackson, Herbie Hancock, Wynton Marsalis.
You said that, Paxton? I think it froze up.
Jarrett?
Yep, still here. You're still here. I hear you now. Sorry, y'all. We might be having a little technical difficulties. Technology, don't do me wrong now.
Are we still with each other?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I lost vision there for a second, but like artists like Najee, Jeffrey Osborne, Herbie Hancock, Wynton Marsalis, Kenny G, Dave Koz, trying to think who else, Carlos Santana, Earth, Wind, and Fire, relationships of 20 plus years that we've worked with. And at one point we were producing about 8 music festivals around the world on an annual basis. And we had a good solid group of musicians who just kind of stuck with us, and we stuck with them. And they've been lifelong friendships. When we produced the Soul Train Awards, same thing. Dionne Warwick, Anita Baker, Shaka Khan, Charlie Wilson, Ron Isley, like literally decades-long friendships and relationships. And so that's a blessing to me more than something I'm proud of necessarily. Thankful for the relationships. Eddie Levert, I should mention, Harry Belafonte, just a blessing. And to be able to work with people like that on a consistent basis, travel the world at the same time, And to be able to have friendships like that and see those great musicians go out on stage and perform, is you just kind of pinch yourself multiple times over, because it's such an amazing thing to have been able to be a part of. So that's the kind of more of it would be, to answer your question, to kind of like pinching yourself sometimes that you actually get to be a part of this. And so that's the blessing.
That has to be an amazing feeling, man. Because one thing we always talk about on the show, Paxton, is relationships are currency, and really like how much you have to value those relationships. It's one thing to have the skills and expertise, but also have the relationships and the team behind you to help propel your career, help propel others around you. That's what it's all about, man. And you know what's crazy? I was doing the research on you. You actually got in the industry the year I was born, brother, 1988.
Wow.
Oh, and I think it was
Wow.
yeah, man, on 1988, brother. So you started early. I believe it was a PK, right? It was a PKB Arts and Entertainment, right? That later turned into
Yeah,
BET.
that's correct. Yeah, actually, what I got to predate you just a little bit, because I started doing shows in college at Temple University,
Wow.
where the core of my career began, and that was in '84. So that would have been kind of really like more of the start. I started as a student, but as far as getting paid professionally, would have been '88. But as a student, I started doing shows in '84, and uh, one of my first mentors in the music business, a brother named Spencer Weston, he was at the Afro-American Historical Museum in Philadelphia. He managed Sun Ra, the great jazz great Sun Ra, and I built my friendship with him. I called him my surrogate grandfather, and I worked with Sun Ra for a number of years, and that was just an amazing experience. And then there's an African brother named Fela Anikulapo Kuti, which a lot of people know about, but some people don't know about. And he was considered the world's most dangerous musician. And he spoke out against corruption in a unique way in Nigeria back in the late 70s and throughout the 80s. And I got a chance to work with Sun Ra while I was in Sun Ra and Fela Kuti while I was in college. And that was, for me, it's been just an amazing ride because of the people I've had the opportunity to work with, and
Absolutely.
the locations I've been able to go to produce music and like earn a living doing something that you pinch yourself to do and you probably would do for free, but
Yeah.
you get paid for it. So, why not?
Yeah, that's the amazing part of the story, brother. So was that part of
Jared, I'm not sure about, I lost your connection for a second. You said, is that what?
no, I said because basically for me, man, my dream, I was a musician. I did music when I started. I was a basketball player. I was all city, all state, all that stuff, man. We were rocking. And I kind of snuck in the back door with sales. But how was this always your passion to put on events and music? Like what part of that was in your life and how did you kind of lead into that, right? And like how did that start?
Started with relationships for the international. So let me back up. So in college, I started doing shows, student run shows, and the first concert I ever did was with Rashid Ali, who was John Coltrane's last drummer in the Great Coltrane Band before he passed. And Rashid was literally the first concert I ever did, and that was just an amazing, great way to start my career. I had a chance to work with other great artists, Sonny Fortune, one of the baddest jazz alto players that had ever hit the scene. Another brother named Rufus Harley, who was the world's only jazz bagpipe player out of Philadelphia. Philadelphia had an amazing array of talents. I went to Temple University, had an amazing array of talents and great musicians
Mhm.
that were from there and still lived there while I was coming up in the 80s. So uh, for me, it's been one thing leads to another, leads to another. So I met Kevin Eubanks on the jazz scene in Philadelphia. Kevin ended up being the longtime band leader for Jay Leno and The Tonight Show for about 20 years or so. He followed Branford Marsalis,
Mhm.
another friend of a long time. And uh, from there, from producing shows in Philadelphia, Kevin introduces me to a sister who was running the City of Atlanta's Cultural Affairs Department, and I moved there and booked the talent for the 1988 Black Music Festival in Atlanta
Mhm.
and National Black Arts Festival, and also the city's work in Grant Park and the Montreux Atlanta International Music Festival. ran into Philip Michael Thomas while I was there, and Philip was still doing Miami Vice. Longtime family friend. I was born in Los Angeles from California. Ended up moving to Miami to work with Philip, and while I was doing shows at his theater, a lady who was attending the theater ended up introducing me to the government of Aruba, the tourist board. Produced the Aruba Jazz Festival from 1982. Aruba was a Dutch colony. Another friend introduced me to a guy named Hans Loonstein, who owned the Drum Jazz Festival in Amsterdam. It made an introduction. I got the gig booking that. I'm now in Europe. Ran into a number of promoters over there who did tours. I started booking tours with them, with musicians. And so things just continued to lead from Aruba, met the tourist board in St. Lucia. And then we produced that festival from 92 to 2014. And things lead. So from St. Lucia, Barbados, Trinidad festivals, Trinidad Pan Jazz, Barbados Painted Jazz festivals. Started touring these. We toured in the late 90s. We toured the Fugees. We toured Brian McKnight, Wynton Marsalis, Herbie Hancock, Kenny G, through Gloria Estefan, through the Caribbean and the northern rim of South America. So things open up. Has been kind of how my life has worked. Is that like the whole thing about one thing leads to another. That has been my life story. And so, once again, using the word blessing, that would have been kind of how I would describe that run. So while in the process of all of that, that's how I met BET. They came down and shot the 91 Aruba Festival and then became one of the anchor sponsors for the 92 St. Lucia Jazz Festival. And I ended up working with BET from 91 to 99. They were my client. And in 98, gave me the opportunity to come aboard and run the BET Jazz, which was the second network, which I had helped them start in 2006, the Jazz Channel, BET Jazz, the Jazz Channel. And I ended up selling my production company to Bob Johnson in 2000. And in 2001, Viacom bought BET, and it became a public company at that time. And they've been in the Viacom family since then. And with Viacom, I was given additional opportunities to build a wide array of relationships across, at the time, it was about a $27 billion company. And that just really opened up just a whole load of different opportunities once again. One of which was launching the Soul Train Awards, relaunching the Soul Train Awards, which had been off the air. And we relaunched the Soul Train Awards in 2009. And that was truly one of pinching yourself over and over and over. I ended up meeting Don Cornelius and had a good conversation with him, and he put his hand on my shoulder. I was asking him to come back on the show and be honored, and it was in the dressing room for the OJs the year they got honored by BET for Lifetime Achievement. And he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Young brother, this is yours now. I'm passing the baton on to you. So you take it and run it, put your creativity into it. I did what I did, well, it's your turn to make it work now." So that to me was the story in the Bible of Elijah passing his cloak on to Elisha. And I felt that momentous from Don Cornelius saying that to me. And we set records for the 5 years that we produced the show. Every year we set records in viewing for the show. So it was a pretty amazing run there as well.
That's amazing too. One, rest in peace to Don Cornelius, man. He's the GOAT. And just that alone, right? You ever feel that pressure when you're doing a project like that? So like you're relaunching a Soul Train Awards and something that's as nostalgic as Soul Train and what it means to our culture. What was your mindset going into that?
To literally just do exactly what he said, was to spin it and put our spin and our taste on it. Yeah. Growing up, looking at an iconic show like that, which I did on Saturday mornings, I learned everything from how to dance to how to look, to put your play together, your Mac together, the beautiful sisters who were on that every week, and picking out which one you got a chance to hope to meet, and et cetera, et cetera. So now from my end, I wouldn't necessarily say pressure from trying to outdo somebody else, but from my end, to do your best and to put your spin on it and your look to it, And for me, all the cultural things that you learned for me from doing shows in Africa, from doing shows in South Africa, in Ghana, in Morocco, to Indonesia, to throughout the Caribbean, like everything that you've learned, you bring all those sensitivities to any project that you do. And then it's your spin and your color on it. I had a great group of people, a brother named Bart Phillips, who was creative director, Tammy Willis Arishley, who worked on the show with me. There was an amazing group of people who worked on it. And so all of us brought our cultural aesthetic to the show and to projects that we worked on. And we were successful. And like the whole expression, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our ratings outdid everybody else's. And pound for pound, dollar for dollar for the project, the budgets that we had to work with, we delivered, and it showed itself out by way how well the ratings did, but in addition to our ad sales department at BET on how well they sold the show and being able to monetize something. So as an entrepreneur, one of my favorite things in the whole span of professionalism, entrepreneurialism, career, et cetera, is to come up with an idea and to be able to bring that idea to fore and to be able to monetize it and for people to benefit from it. So that is, to me, one of the most exciting things that I've ever achieved in my career. And the Soul Train Awards were a part of that.
That's a gem right there, brother. And as you're speaking, the gems that I'm getting from that, brother, one, the reason why I succeeded, because it was a part of you. It was part of the culture. You grew up on it. You knew what you would have wanted to see from your show. You knew what we wanted to see. You knew your audience. And for anybody listening, that's a key to any show, is knowing your audience and knowing what people want to see out of that. And you just executed, put a strategy together, and made it happen. So congrats to you, brother. And then
thank you, Jared. But one thing I would add to that is Don Cornelius, one of the things that he did such an amazing job of in the original Soul Train TV series, which was the longest syndicated running show of its kind in American TV history, is he introduced a new act, and then he had kind of a legendary act in the show. And so you'd have Shalimar, which was actually kind of breaking out in real time from the dancers from the Soul Train Awards. Jody Watley was a dancer. Howard Hewitt was added later, but Jeffrey Daniels, who was one of the best dancers that ever was on Soul Train Awards or on Soul Train show. So you had Jody and Jeffrey. So the Shalimar grew out of the Soul Train dancers, and then Howard Hewitt was added later. But that was a new act. But on the same show, he might have James Brown or Marvin Gaye. And so for us, when we did the show, it was like, okay, well, how can we take that model and add to it? So we introduced that was Miguel was Artist of the Year. Mm-hmm. It was his first award. I remember seeing him go up to the microphone and kind of apologize and say, "Wow, man, I didn't expect this, so I didn't prepare a speech or anything, but wow." And I kept saying, he really is tongue-tied. He's never gotten an award before. So Miguel, and then Bruno Mars got his first award on Soul Train. And both of those were in Atlanta when they won. And we introduced Chrisette Michele on BET Jazz. We introduced Jill Scott. There was a lot of artists that we broke, and then we're putting them with Shaka, who was in the original Soul Train. We put them with Ron Isley. We put them with Dionne Warwick, who Don Cornelius called up Dionne Warwick to put together the first Soul Train Awards, the first one. And she told that story when she got her Legend Award. And so you're pairing Kool and the Gang, Earth, Wind and Fire with these new acts that are coming through. And that was the original vision of Soul Train. So for us, it was unlocking Don Cornelius's vision, putting our spin on it and putting a modern spin on it. And that's just what we did. And we were successful with it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then we also want somebody from the crowd, one of my brothers. They asked who hosted that show. Do you remember?
The very first one,
or the one with the Bridging the Gap with the older talent and newer talent. I think it was.
So yes, I can answer that question really easily. So for in 2009 and 2010, Terrence Howard and Taraji Henson were the hosts for Soul Train. In 2011, it was Cedric the Entertainer, and then Anthony Anderson, And for when we produced it, Anthony Anderson, and then Wendy Williams. Those were the hosts. And then the year after I left, Erica Badu hosted it.
I remember that year. I remember Erica did it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so let's segue into that, brother. So, after the year Erica hosted, you left the show. What happened from there? How did your, journey, what else happened from your journey from that point?
So my career at BT as a professional spanned 26 years. So I was often asked by people like, well, kind of like, why did you leave? I consider myself now a young 62-year-old, but at the time when I left I was 54, 55 when I left, I had done it for over almost half of my life. And I had a wonderful run at BT and at Viacom, had wonderful relationships with the employees there and the executives at Viacom. I ended up becoming chairman of the Viacom Marketing Council, which was all the companies that Viacom owned. I was the first African-American in that position, first and only African-American in that position.
Wow.
And I interfaced across all of the chief marketing officers of all the different brands at Viacom. I had a wonderful career, but prior to going to Viacom, I was an entrepreneur, and I owned my own business, which I sold to Bob Johnson. That was always my goal, to emerge on the other side of it and get back into being a kind of a smaller entrepreneur. I consider myself an entrepreneur at Viacom. And
oh no, not technology. Sorry, y'all. My bad, y'all.
But while I was going through that process, in 2006, I bought into the ownership group with the Lerner family of the Washington Nationals baseball team. When I left in 2015, I had already had the opportunity to join the ownership group of the Washington Castles, which was World Team Tennis. That year, the Castles won their 6th championship. It was my first championship ring and championship experience that I had. In 2019, it was the Nationals winning the World Series. In 2021, it was the Washington Spirit and the National Women's Soccer League winning the 2021-2022 championship. So I've been now a part of 3 different ownership groups that have won championships. And I had other things that I wanted to do, and it wasn't continuing to work at the same company. It was like, let me come back out and put my entrepreneurial shingle back up. And I've never looked back.
That's amazing.
So,
amazing. So where did the idea, right? Because you went from entertainment, where you're mostly doing like events, you're mostly, the music, entertainment. Like, how did it transition to sports, and how does one go about creating the funding group or buying into a major sports team? What is that process like, brother?
So from an entrepreneurial perspective, I read something which I stuck with the whole of the time I was at Viacom, and that was, I worked for myself at BT. I worked for myself at Viacom. And I never stopped being an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur as part of a much bigger business enterprise. So when things came up, like being able to buy into the ownership group of the baseball team, one, you have to be prepared to have savings to be able to have money to do investments. That's a core piece, and I can't challenge people enough to save money. So when opportunities come up, if you're not prepared, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. So the preparedness part is a critical piece to it, of like actually having money that you have to invest in opportunities. If not, for the most part, you will continue to work for someone the whole of your life. And there's nothing wrong with that. I made great money and I really loved what I did. So there was a deep passion as a part of it. But my achievements were achievements at BT and at Viacom, of which there were many. So like relaunching the Soul Train brand, produced the Source Awards for 2 years, produced the Billboard BET Jazz Awards, and phenomenal opportunities, produced the BET Experience, which was the live festival, which led into the BET Awards.
Yeah.
phenomenal opportunities to do, and I dug being there, but I didn't own any of that. And so when other things come up, if you have money that you can put into it or pool money, then that gives you a broader array of something. And when something is sold, you get the opportunity to make a bigger bang from it because you put money into it. So examples would be, um, I bought into the Nationals group with the Lerner family in 2006. We paid 450 million for the team at the time. The team is now for sale at $2.5 billion.
Whew.
16 years later, the Washington Spirit, which we participated in over the last 2 years, bought into the ownership group at 7 million. The team sold for 35 million. And so as a partner in those, you get a return on that commensurate to your investment into the project. So it's something I valued. Once I did it once, I knew I wanted to do it again. I knew I wanted to do it again. And relationships are everything. So my dentist, Dr. Ronnie Rosenberg, introduced me to the Lerner family because he
Wow.
did their teeth. And that was my first introduction. And once doors open in that regard, you will find, much like I told you about the festivals on how we grew relationships and produced more festivals, it's the same thing for business opportunities when they come to you. One comes, I guarantee you invariably, if you do a good job with that one, another one will come. And if you're once again in a financial position to make additional investments, then you'll be able to share in more and like continue to build profit and continue to build wealth.
Man, that's amazing, man. Like you said, and one thing I heard from that is the savings and being prepared for opportunities, man. And the relationships, once again, it always goes back to relationships, guys. Like it is currency and it can take you so far just being a humble person, being a good person, standing on your morals, your principles, and looking out for people and doing right, man. And that's what it seems like you did, man. So what advice would you give to somebody like myself, Paxton, or any other young professional looking out that's how do you maintain those relationships, right? Because we talk a lot about building those. How do you maintain those at such a large scale that you have? Because you've encountered so many amazing people.
So one of them, I would say, just from a simple perspective, is be the friend that you like to have. You be that friend to other people. So by way of, how would you like your friends to share with you? You share with them the same things, and I think that everybody's got something that they can share and put in play.
Yeah.
So be the friend that you like to have. You be that friend, and
So real.
uh, yeah, it was a saying that Bob Johnson used to say, and that was build your friends before you need them. And for
Mm.
me, on that one, is kind of uh, you know, the gifts that you have and the things that you have, share those with other people. And when it comes time where you need something back from somebody, you're not you're not borrowing something that you haven't already lent out to other people. And so share, be meaningful, give all of what you can. It could be making an introduction to another person when someone needs something. It could be loaning or giving money away to somebody. It could be getting somebody into. I've gotten into multiple events, and when I turned around, there was somebody else who wanted to get in, and rather than just going in and closing the door behind me, I opened the door a little bit longer and got them into the same room I was getting into.
Mm.
There was early on in my career, back in it would have been like back in 1989. I remember I was going over for a meeting at WLRM, which was the PBS radio station or the NPR radio station in Miami. And I was going over there to meet with them to ask them to broadcast the live concerts that we were doing at the Miami Way Theater, Philip Michael Thomas's theater at the time. And I'm getting on the elevator. I'm going upstairs to meet with this guy, Don. I'm blanking on his last name, and I see someone walking toward the elevator door.
Mhm.
And instead of just letting the elevator door close, I put my hand out really quickly, swiped the thing, and the elevator doors opened up. The guy gets on the elevator, and uh, he says, "Well, thank you." And so I could have just been lazy or said, I don't care, like, the door's closing. No, I went the extra mile to open the door up for the gentleman. And I get upstairs, and it turns out that's who I was coming to the radio station to meet.
Wow.
So the
Crazy.
vibe of me saving the door to, open the door for him, where he appreciated it and thanked me for it, versus like it would have been wholly different if I just let the door close and like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're the guy who let the door close on me, and didn't let me up on the elevator. Whereas he gets on the elevator, I said, hey, how are you? He said, thank you. It was really nice of you to keep the elevator door open for me. And I was like, yeah, no problem at all. I hope you have a good afternoon. Not knowing that that's the person who I'm going to go meet with. So it made all the difference in that meeting. And that actually helped that was one of the integral things, which was a stepping stone in my career, which was this radio series, this jazz series that I did on radio in Miami, metropolitan Miami. That actually, one of the people who was a board member of the Chamber of Commerce heard the show and ended up coming to the theater, saw the show, and she was the one who made the introduction for me with the tourist board in Aruba. So who knows if that meeting had gone differently, that one little thing of being kind enough to, open a door for somebody. I try to have that same type of mindset when I drive. When you see somebody cutting in front of you,
Yep.
it's like we all do it. Everyone cuts people off invariably at different times for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so rather than be angry and blow the horn at them and start an argument, just like, hey, I cut off people sometimes. I try not to, but sometimes I do if I'm trying to swipe in a lane or something. So let me just, share an act of kindness or let someone in, like wave them in, because you see they're under some degree of distress. So that's what I try to do in my life. And that's part of the affirmations that I say to myself in the morning and in the evening, on just trying to be a better person and having a quality life. I try to live that on a daily basis. And that to me is part of the whole thing about building relationships. And that has been truly one of the greatest blessings of the whole of my career, have been the relationships that I've been able to build and keep over the course of my career.
That's and it's so reassuring to hear you say that, brother. Because I told you a little bit in the green room, and it's crazy that one situation led to so many other opportunities and how the stars aligned for you. Like for me, brother, I was in sales, man. I was tired of sending emails. I had a good quarter, I have a bad quarter. I sell a meal here, a meal there, all these other things. I leave a job, all these other things. And I'm like, man, it has to be a better way to do this. I knew if I connect with you and I'll tell you who I am and I have these conversations and let you know what I have to say and provide value, I could have more relationships. I could drive more sales. I went on LinkedIn, man, hat and hoodie, man, every single day. Just started pulling my phone out, started talking, man, and started building those relationships. And I ended up closing $2 million without an email, brother, and just telling my story and being great, just like this, man. And I just have these conversations to hear you say that relationships are so important, and the relationships that I'm establishing right now with people like yourself, man, just means the world to me, brother. And I would also love to know, man, because I know there had to be a time in your career. What was one of the toughest things you overcame in your career? Like, what were the biggest lessons that you may have learned from all these different, scenarios and things you've overcame in your career, brother? What's one that sticks out?
Boy, I guess one would be that sometimes survival is success. So I mentioned the length of my relationship with BT from consulting and being an executive. You don't survive. You don't survive 26 years with an organization in corporate America unless you're truthful in your conduct, and you're not building enemies by way of like cutting people off, coming behind them, talking behind people's backs. You think that something is done in secret, but it rarely is. And so those are just some really simple ones. And then as far as each year for Soul Train, we had like different things. Like each show was its own unique animal. There was no Soul Train Awards that was anywhere near the same, even though you have the same host. So different stories, working with artists. Like that's a piece of work to work with artists. They're some of the most incredible human beings on the planet.
A lot of
with their
personalities.
puzzles and a lot of personalities to work with. So I'm not going to shout anybody out other than say like that was an experience into and of itself on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. So that would be part of it. And then also on the music festival side, we did festivals in Indonesia. We did tours of India. One year was Herbie Hancock, Wayne Shorter, Shaka, Dee Dee Bridgewater. Another year was Al Jarreau, Stanley Clarke, George Duke, Ravi Coltrane, and Earl Klugh. Where you're touring them throughout a third world country, or some people might say a second world country, but it's like some of the like tours were kind of really unique animals as well. And then festivals, festivals. What else am I thinking? St. Martin, St. Lucia, Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, Anguilla.
Wow.
Did I say Turks and Caicos? Yeah, Turks and Caicos, Ghana, Accra, Ghana, South Africa. South Africa was Durban and Johannesburg. Wow. And I don't even remember all the tours, but loads of them. So every one we had like kind of struggles and things in that market where you did it. For Amsterdam, that was 8 venues across the city of Amsterdam over a 2-week period of time. St. Lucia, the first year we did those, that was a third world island, and St. Lucia was very rudimentary in the early 90s. On that one, we would have sometimes like 8 to 10 venues across a third world island, and like to be able to pull those off, each one kind of had their unique struggles, and we had musicians who got stung by bees and a wasp attack. We had musicians who fell in the water that got injured. When we did the Cayman Islands Jazz Festival, one of the musicians fell off the stage and had a concussion and did not miss the beat and kept singing until I realized what happened. He was on the ground. We all panicked, and he's still holding the note and fell. And then had to do like a bandage wrap around his head. It's like there's so many different things from an overcoming perspective.
Shout out to whoever you said, and didn't miss the beat. Shout out to whoever that
didn't miss the beat. Didn't miss the beat. One of the greatest boy bands of all time. I'll just end with that one. They had mega hits. Did not miss a beat. And just an amazing musician and soldier. So those, and then business obstacles. And now I'd say it's like we're more in the phase now of client satisfaction. Like people are looking for high demands on value for the work that you do for them nowadays. And that only continues to get harder over time, like providing value, client value, like meaningful client value, and being able to survive some of those events and work through them, deliver value, get paid, and keep moving on to the next project. So I've had hundreds of obstacles to overcome over the course of what's now closing in on a 40-year career.
That's amazing, brother. That's amazing, brother. Then on the flip side, then, right? Because you've also done a lot of great works. Is there one that sticks out that you're really, really proud of? If what was one that you would hang your hat on right now if somebody asked you one project?
Well, so that's a question that I had been asked before, Jarrett, is like if there's one major significant one, and on that one, my response is generally no. There's been so many. We did Eric Benet in Central Park one year for the Tall Ships with J&R Music World. Like Central Park was one of my just like kind of bucket list things to accomplish. We produced a show on the mall with the Indonesian embassy here with their national instrument called an angklung, and we had 6,000 people play the angklung at the same time. One of their masters came over from Indonesia and ended up playing Michael Jackson. Was it We Are the World? Yeah, it was We Are the World right on the grass with the Washington Monument right above us. We produced the 75th anniversary of Marian Anderson, her great concert in 1932 at the Lincoln Memorial. She wanted to originally play Constitution Hall, which was run and owned by the Daughters of the American Revolution, and they wouldn't let her play there. So Eisenhower's wife, not Eisenhower, Roosevelt. right. Was it the First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt? Thank you. Eleanor Roosevelt had her play on the mall and had the Secretary of the Interior like set up the Washington Mall. Well, we did the 75th anniversary of that at Constitution Hall, and we had a choir of like 330 people. It was the Winans brothers. The MCs were Wolf Blitzer, Malcolm Jamal Warner, MC Hammer, and it was a 300 and Mary was it Leontine Price who was the diva. Yeah, so and we had so that was just it, and that was an amazing production. Allison Cambridge as well was in it, and so we did that one, and in conjunction with the Congressional Black Caucus, we did that. We produced United Nations Day on the floor of the General Assembly with Stevie Wonder, and that like Stevie is one of my just all-time heroes growing up, and to be able to produce that, that show was Valerie Simpson, BB Winans, Wycliffe, Dougie Fresh, Sting, India's foremost violinist, Manny Subramanian, the Dirty Dozen Jazz Band, and that was like on the floor of the General Assembly of the UN. Like you've seen pictures of the UN all your life, and now you're there producing. And Stevie was the Goodwill ambassador for the UN. He's the only individual that's ever produced UN Day. It's always been a member nation. So we like produced that in conjunction with Stevie and Creative Artists Agency. So White House Productions, Soul Train Awards, like each of them were unique. Did that for 5 years. So now there isn't just one. I really couldn't answer that just to say that there was just that one that was just so overwhelmingly blew the other ones out of the water. All of them were equal in stature, and just to me, like, yeah, truly, truly amazing production. We worked with the city of DC on Emancipation Day and did some pretty incredible debates with Black leaders on the left and the right. And so, I can't answer that question with one thing. I'd have to say there's been a multitude of them.
No, the more you say, brother, the more I get amazed that it's like, man, what a life that you're living, brother, and like how inspirational it is, brother. And I also wanted to ask you, I'll ask you one more question. I know we're running over time, brother, and I appreciate you. So me, I'm also a parent, brother. I have a 14-year-old son, right? So one of the things I'm trying to do, man, I'm dad. I could never be the cool dad, right? Even though I could be doing all this cool shit. I'm trying to bring my son into the business. I'm showing him, I'm helping. He's helping me grow the business, all these things, right? Like, have you ever had that situation with your kids, and how do your kids view? Like, do they see dad who does all these things, or is it just dad? And how do you kind of bridge that gap? You know what I mean? Because
I do. So it is just dad. It is just dad. 100%. It's just dad. And when dad's home, he's taking the trash out and doing fundamental things around the house. So it's 100% just dad. But I think with children, that light bulb has to snap on its own inside of their brain. And I don't believe that you can do that for them. I think they have to find that 100%. Into and of itself. And so my son, Lucas, who's now in college in Michigan, and he's 18, and I really wanted, I love basketball. It's like one of the deepest, most passionate things in my life, and still play basketball. And I wanted him to love it, and I pushed it, and I enrolled him in different basketball clinics and classes and stuff. And he liked video games more. And then one day during the COVID, it clicked for him. I'd already taken him to an all-star game the year they had it in Charlotte, and it clicked for him, and he developed a passion for it. And now he's overwhelmingly passionate, and he's studying sports management and wants to go into basketball. And so I didn't push it. Like it wasn't anything that I pushed or something I can take credit for, other than maybe planting the seed. But he's already shown me from what he's learned and amassed in his learning, he knows more about parts of the game than I do. And I have been I've been watching basketball since black and white in the 60s when everything was on tape delay. And so now I've got a son who the amount of knowledge that he has about the game is broader than mine. And I couldn't be happier, couldn't be prouder. So I think as a parent, you really have to be patient. And what's the scripture? Bring up a child in the way that he should, and his learning, he'll come back to it. I'm not quite quoting that scripture quite correctly, but that's the gist of it. So put the example in front of them, teach them as best you can, and then leave it to them to kind of gather from there. My youngest daughter, Chloe, told her mom the other day, like she came over and I was watching. I was like kind of nodding in and out of a documentary on Babe Ruth. As soon as the Babe Ruth documentary ended, the next step was a Muhammad Ali documentary. Mm-hmm. So we ended up watching. Antoine Fuqua was the producer of it. I'm not sure if it's LeBron's production company. It may have been LeBron's production company that did it, but it was the first Ali Frazier fight. And then we watched the Rumble in the Jungle. And now once a week we're watching boxing. And she said to her mom the other day, Lucas has basketball with dad, but I've got boxing. And so tonight we're going to watch Frazier Foreman, Ron Lyle. So because I watched those fights as a kid, and they were like otherworldly for me. And as a kid, I got to meet Muhammad Ali when I was 15 at his training camp in Berrien Springs, Michigan, for a week. Every day I went and saw him train. He was training for the I think it was Jimmy Young fight. And then I met him again a number of times when he was older. And like, to me, once again, like the opportunity to meet your heroes, there's nothing short of it, nothing more amazing than the opportunity to meet your heroes. But I'm now able to share that with my daughter. And she picked that up on her own without me kind of pushing it. As parents, that is something that we sometimes do, is push our kids. But I think that from a learning perspective, if we can kind of lay some seeds there and leave them the patience to find themselves, that often they do.
That's real, man. And I appreciate those gems, Pax. And before we go too, brother, I'm going to let you know, man, if you come to New York, man, I'm going to have to get you on the court, Paxton. You sure you got it, man? You sure you got the knees? Because I might have the jump shot still, man.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting thing. My basketball game is called the Pit, and it's 3-on-3. It's no take back. Winner keeps the ball. We play to 11 by 1 or 2. 1 point is just put back more often than that, and we have the NBA 3-point line. That's 2 points. So it's 11 by 1 or 2. There's no ticky-tack fouls. So there's no charging, no blocking.
Are we playing
if you set a pick?
Come on.
Yeah, pretty much. You set a pick, don't put your hands over your balls and think that that's going to stop somebody from knocking you over, because if you don't set a pick like a football pick, you will get knocked over. No flopping. If the ball leaves your hand and you get hit, your hand gets hit on the other side of the ball leaving your hand, that's not a foul if it doesn't interrupt your shot. So we've had plenty of pros play with us. Roy Hibbert and Jeff Green played with us different summers. And we've had loads of pros who play pro ball in Europe. And you got to be careful talking shit because if you don't back it up with physicality. So I never
Give me 3 months to get my shit together. Give me 3 months to get my shit together. I'm back.
I never talk before I play. I never, ever talk before I play. But so, yeah, it's a man's game. It's hardy. Ain't no flopping, no soft calls, or you get argued off of it. So, yeah, we played basketball like the bad boys played basketball back in the 80s.
The 88?
So,
yeah, you and John.
Yeah, the Pistons. Baby. Yeah.
See my boys, they like, be careful talking shit. But brother, last question out of here, brother. Mm-hmm. And I gotta ask you, and this is straight from the heart, man, because I so much appreciate it. I look forward to this conversation, brother. You didn't know me from a hole in the wall, man. I reached out to you on LinkedIn, and the fact that you took time out your busy day to come on my show to give us game, it means a lot to me, brother. And I'm just curious, what made you do that, brother?
You were persistent, and you asked. And I said to you earlier on being the friend that you'd like to be, I was you. I'm 62 now. So I was, how old are you, Jarrett?
I'm 34, brother.
34. So I was 34 at one point. It was almost 30 years ago, but I was 34 at one point. And there have been so many people who've opened the doors for me. and who were kind to me when they didn't need to be. There was no thing they could gain from being kind to me. One of them was Clarence Avant,
Yeah.
the Black Godfather.
Yes, sir.
And his story's on Netflix now. So I met Clarence when I was 30 at backstage at a New Edition tour in 1991 at the old Capitol Cap Center in Landover, Maryland, right outside of DC. And when you see his story, like for those who haven't seen it, go on Netflix and catch it. It's called The Black Godfather. I lived through all of that with him, and the big brag at the end from Kamala Harris and from a few other people was that Clarence never cursed them out. He never cursed me out. He cursed a lot, and he curses a lot, and he's got one of the most outrageous mouths of anybody in modern history. But there's so much wisdom that spews forth from it. And not long after I met him, my next trip to Los Angeles, I'm literally sitting in his office for hours of time. He had one of those old phones. This is like literally 1991. And the old cords that used to crumple up and you'd have to unfold them every night. He never unfolded his. And so I'm sitting there with his feet up on the desk and he's rubbing his tummy. And I'm sitting there listening to him talk to Andy Young, Maynard Jackson, Bill Clinton, Hank Aaron, L.A., Babyface, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Yep, the legends.
Bill Withers. Yeah, like just an amazing array of people. And upon listening to him do that, one of the light bulbs that clicked on in my mind was I could do this. Like I could be this person. There's no reason that I can't have a wide array of relationships across all spectrums of business. And that was a challenge to me, was to emulate that. And like it was just incredible to me to like see a Black man do that. It was like I could be that person. And then the year after that, Harry Belafonte called me up in June of like the summer of '92, and asked me to work with him. That was my first opportunity to work with Harry Belafonte, looking to build out a festival in Barbados. And I met John Johnson when I was working with Philip Michael Thomas, and when I went to his office in the building in Chicago, it was like the only building that a Black man owned in Chicago. And he literally met me at the elevator. Mr. Baker, I've been waiting for you. Like, so nice to meet you. And it was just I'm meeting John Johnson of Ebony. Like, just,
wow.
And so Clarence and Harry have been abiding figures in my life. Harry's a surrogate father to me. Eddie Levert is as well. There's a brother in Trinidad named Leroy Clark, who's Trinidad's foremost painter in Trinidad. And like, Bill Withers was a big brother to me. Verdine White is a big brother to me. I could like Jeffrey Osborne, Freddie Jackson, 30 plus years friends with Wynton Marsalis. But for the older cats and sisters, there's been a number of sisters as well who've influenced me and embraced me. Like those people, that impression and what they did in my life, I can never equal.
Yeah.
So when young brothers and sisters come up and ask me for advice and ask me to share things that I've learned, I do it because it was done for me. And so,
yeah, sir.
You talked about children. I hope that the love and sharing and the gifts that I've given in my life to other people, my children could ideally be the beneficiary of some of those gems of things that others did for me. And I've been blessed and fortunate enough to do for other people as well. So it's that those things are never lost on me. And that's part of, for me, like why I've been able to have friendships that have been 30-year plus friendships. Stanley Clark I met when I was in college in 1984. B.B. Winans and I met in 1988, like decades-long friendships. And so being able to share with someone like yourself, you asked me, but you were persistent as well. And so persistence is the thing. So I'd be remiss if I didn't share two more things before I get off your show.
I appreciate you, bro.
One is volunteerism. and charitable giving and charitable work. That's an integral part of my life that my mother taught me, was volunteerism and basically doing more for people than people do for you. And so it's, to me, of critical importance to give back, to share your blessings with other people. That's one. And then two is the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I was given that book by an older white gentleman at 17 years old. I was living in Russellville, Arkansas at the time, and I was a high school dropout when he gave me that book to read. And that book has been the most integral, game-changing book in my life outside of the Bible. But my success secrets, my success principles that I've lived my life on came from that book, Think and Grow Rich. So number one is positive mental attitude. Number two is sound physical health. Number three is harmony in human relationships. Number four is freedom from fear. Number five is hope for future achievement, which to me is putting goals out there for yourself.
Manifest.
And when people ask the question about, did you ever think that you'd, be able to, be part owner of a baseball team when I was younger, the answer, it wouldn't have even crossed my mind. But once I started putting goals in place for myself and the opportunity came up, I was like a pit bull on biting onto something, and you couldn't shake me off because I was there. So addition to that is the capacity for faith, the willingness to share your blessings, a labor of love, which is to me, once again, giving, and then self-discipline and open mind on all subjects, being open-minded and not thinking you can't achieve something or something is beyond your reach, and open mind. The capacity to share your blessings. And then the last one is economic security, which I shared with you earlier, from the perspective of being financially prepared to jump on something when the opportunity comes to you. You could be in the real estate space and you're selling real estate, but suddenly like no, you've actually saved up enough money to buy and to be able to do projects. And then friendships from the perspective of like-minded people who are positive. I try not to be around negative people. I'm really good on that. I'm not being around negative people. And when opportunities pop up, I've got good friends who've got paper who can invest with me, and they've seen me make money. And so they have the confidence in me that I'm going to make them money. And I have a really good track record of making money for people who come into my investments with me.
My man, brother. Thank you so much for these gems. First of all, brother, I got to make a joke, man, because Martin's my favorite show, and my favorite episode is when he had Simon in the Skybox. You remember that one, the Simon in the Skybox, where he had him when Pam's boyfriend was an older gentleman and he owned a team. He called the timeout on the Pistons and all that. But that's my favorite episode, bro, and it reminds me of you. And everything you said is so true, brother. Like, you don't know what this opportunity is doing for myself right now. I've got brothers, cousins. I've got, my son's godfather. I got people I worked with in this chat right now that are in awe of the journey and story. And the fact that you took time, man. I just started my own business. I've got the entrepreneurial fire burning right now, and I'm going for it, brother. So just to hear the gems from you, man, I was like a sponge, man. I'm like glued to my seat. And I just want to say thank you again from the bottom of my heart, my brother. This means a lot to me. And I'm rooting for you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So I did say like those two last things from the perspective of the Think and Grow Rich and volunteering, but this will be the last one. And that is, I don't believe that there's anything that I've achieved that other people can achieve as well. And so when I look at the great works of people before me, and Dr. King is one of my abiding heroes, and Dr. King always talked about servant leadership. And I aspire to that in my volunteerism, is servant leadership. And to be the person that people can aspire to come behind to do things, because like I wear it on my heart, my volunteerism, I wear it on my heart. I don't believe that there's nothing that if you write out your goals and put in front of you, that whole concept of whatever the mind of man can believe and conceive, the mind of man can achieve, or the mind of woman can achieve. I wholly believe that because it's manifested itself in my life. I was the youngest of 6 children by natural birth. My parents adopted 2 of my cousins. I was the youngest of 8. born in Compton, California in 1960.
Wow.
And I have learning disabilities, dyslexia, severe ADHD.
Wow.
A lot of learning disabilities that they take medicine for now or have special classes for. I was that kid, 3-time high school dropout. And so talked my way into junior college and got an associate's degree and qualified for a GED. So there's nothing that was special about me from that perspective of like, I've got more things up on other people because of how my life, silver spoon. I wasn't the kid that was like driven enough to say, oh, I want to go to college for 4 years. I went to junior college for 2 years, took 2 years off in between junior college and college, and ended up graduating from Temple University. And so there's nothing that was just that special. It was like, you can't look at me and say, hey, you know, you got these breaks. It's like, no.
No, you put in the work, brother.
I didn't. You put in the work. So if I did it, you can do it. That's the point that I'd like to leave you with. And don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't. Blow them out of your life if they tell you that you can't.
That's it. And we're going to end off. I'm going to drop the mic on that moment, guys. This episode is going to be anything possible.
Peace out.
Thanks again for joining another episode. My brother, much love.
My brother. Peace, Jarrett.
What you know about me? Seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me? I done it all, just one.